Mr. Walter Anderson. He's a political analyst from Washington, D.C. in the United States. Also with us is Mr. Sumit Ganguly, who's also a political analyst from Palo Alto in California. I'd like to go across to Mr. Anderson. It's a power-packed day, as my colleague suggested. She is on the ground in Tianjin covering the latest, but all eyes are on a very important bilateral that is slated to take place. I'm referring to the one between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping. The leaders last met in Kazan, but Modi is visiting China after 7 years. Ties were warm and cordial up until 2019, when Xi Jinping, in fact, came down to India. He flew to Mahabalipuram in Tamil Nadu, met the Prime Minister, but somehow in 2020, everything changed with the Galwan clashes. With Trump's tariffs also now coming into the equation, and Trump's pressure upon India by imposing steep 50% tariffs now coming into the fray, are we witnessing a historic realignment?
I think it's too early to tell yet. A lot depends on what will happen. But I just have one slight correction to make on the figure you gave of 50% on the items coming from India. About a third of the exports from India are not being tariffed. Pharmaceuticals and some electronics, things that are actually critical, so they have been, overlooked. But the other things that haven't have been, very labor-intensive industries like the apparel, clothing, jewelry, etc. And I should say here, I have a personal interest in all that. My wife has a factory that exports a large part of its product to the U.S. And she's been totally busy to beat the August 27th deadline when the other 20% comes in. And I know from watching her and her business is 50% additional to a product is very difficult to handle. So I think one has, for the Indian, public, manufacturers who have to respond to that, they need to look at new markets, particularly domestic markets, as well as markets, particularly in Europe and maybe in China and Japan as well. So I think that's going to be something that has to be done, and it's going to need the help of the Indian government for them to do that, because you have hundreds of thousands of workers, who could be left off. Now, my wife is fortunate in that she has not let off any of her workers, nor does she intend to, at least in the near frame. So we'll see what happens, over the next several months. But so far, on a key issue of Indian imports of oil from Russia, so far, the U.S. and India have not backed down from mutual stands. India says it needs, to import oil, and it is relatively, competitive. The U.S. says it must stop, and I think we stand at that point. Now, there are some talks going on, behind the scenes in certain levels. But, I think something that's instructive is we do not have an ambassador. The U.S. does not have an ambassador in India. We have nominated someone, Sergio Gore, yes. Who, in fact, is, most people don't. I don't know, Shumit, do you know about this? I haven't heard the name at all.
I have not heard the name either until it was announced.
Yeah, sir. Well, it's only I don't think it's been formally announced, so it has been all but formally announced. But he doesn't have a background in South Asia. He's not a diplomat by background, and he's close to Trump because he was kind of a person who was able to who judged how loyal a person was to the president. That was his job in his office, was to look at people who were appointed to find out how loyal they were. So we'll see. The reaction in India, I think, has been equally stunned because it took everybody by surprise. And I'm sure many of the people who are listening here, he'll probably be something of an envoy, more than a typical ambassador. But that may not be bad, because you want. And countries want their ambassadors of another country, particularly important ones, to be close to the head of that state. And of course, he is close to Trump. So we'll see whether he adds, something, positive to the diplomacy between our two countries.
Absolutely. I request our guests to stay on with us. There are some crucial developments coming in. We're now learning that Chinese President Xi Jinping has met UN Secretary General Antonio